Actually, growing up in Southwest Washington, D.C., I was your average child growing up in a household full of women. I was the only boy in the house. I had all sisters. Uh, and growing up, I knew right from wrong. And one thing about my mom, she made sure that I knew right from wrong. But being a kid, growing up with friends, I got a little mischievous. But I always knew that, if I got caught doing something wrong, either I was going to get punished and I was going to get a whooping. Um, I've been in and out of prison almost majority of my life. First ventured in when I was a teen, and when I turned 18, I was eventually sent down to Lawton. Since then, been indulging in drugs as a young juvenile, smoking the marijuana, whatever drug of choice that came out, whatever was popular growing up, that was my drug of choice, from PCP, the marijuana, the heroin, the mushrooms, the psychedelic drugs, uh, you name it, the cocaine, the crack, I did it all. I'm proudly announced I've been clean for over 30 years. I got clean when I was 27 years old. And it was one of those moments where my higher power spoke to me. I was right on 8th Street and didn't have a sense of awareness. Didn't have any shoes on, didn't have a shirt on. But something just drove me to go in the right direction. And I think God had placed two angels in my life, two guys that I grew up with, just so happened was driving past. And one gave me a shirt off his back, and the other one offered me a ride home, but I didn't take it. But in the end, the police got me, and I was sent to St. Elizabeth for evaluation. And in the end, I cut my feet all up. I didn't feel any pain or anything because of the drugs. But at that moment, I believe God came and talked to me and said, son, we got to do something with you. And that was February the 8th, 1993. I hadn't had a drink or a drug since. It was just one of those moments where he spoke to me and said, well, I'm gonna have something planned for you. At 27 years old, I was still young. But the struggles of, still going to nightlife, going to clubs and not having a drink, not having a drug, I struggled with that a lot, but, I stuck in there and, I was able to, stay sober. And what I realized is when I went to prison, I had a drug treatment program. It really had nothing to do with my drugs. It all had to do with my thinking, the way that I thought, my thought process, my thought patterns. And so once I got control of that, I said, well, what can I do to help with all the harm that I've caused my community? And what I did was 18 years ago, I was released from a federal prison in West Virginia. And I told myself I wanted to give back to my community with no strings attached. And that means that they didn't have to pay me for my goods or my services. And so for 7 straight years, I volunteered at my recreation center just as a volunteer. It was just my way of giving back to my community. And that's what I instill with a lot of returning citizens that come home. I ask them, can you volunteer in your neighborhood where you actually committed your crime? Because all of my crimes that I committed were right in my neighborhood. So actually, I'm still paying for, the crimes I committed as a kid. When I think back on some things that I've done in my past, which I'm not proud of, but like I said, I wouldn't change anything because it made me the person I am today. Until I did a deep dive in my thoughts and, my things that I've done in my past, going with some of my friends to go snatch women pocketbooks. That was one of the ones on the forefront, right by the Safeway on 4th Street. I walk past there frequently and I just remember, just hiding in the bushes, waiting for this lady to come down the streets. And I'm trying to minimize, as I say, if I get caught, I'm gonna get a butt whooping and I'm gonna get punished. But my friends, they be right back out the house. And so I try to stay as far away from the action as possible so I can get away. But the scream from this lady when we snatched her pocketbook, It was a scream I never heard in my life. And so almost 6 years ago, I was walking down that same very street and I heard a woman scream. And I said, I remember that scream. And that's how God used me. And Lord behold, a young guy had snatched this woman's pocketbook. I got out my car and I ran them down. I held them for the police to come. And not knowing that that neighborhood been having problems where at least like 5 or 6 women had their pocketbook snatched within a 4-month span. And so I called one of my friends because his mother still stay in the neighborhood. She had just came back from a jazz concert down at Westminster Church, where I frequent and I go speak a lot. And he had informed me that, I had told him that I caught a guy snatching his pocketbook. And he told me his mother told him, they've been trying to catch that guy for a long time. And so I waited around for the police to come and lock him up. And the lady, she kept thanking me, and I think that was one of the ways God said, well, Paul, I got to use you. You know this street. You've been through this. And so I believe I've cleaned that one slate out. God used me in many ways, just interact with a lot of my friends that still suffering from the drug of addiction. I just had one of my friends, he's homeless, I'm just sitting there praying for him, but he constantly trying to ask me for my money. And I'm just trying to tell him I need to see the old person, that we grew up together. And so I just asked God, to lift that addiction up off of him. I have other friends that's struggling with homelessness. And, I have a Rolodex of, programs and things that I offer these friends, but a lot of them just don't take the information, because they want to do what they do. And I always say God got to step in, because I was there at one time with people constantly trying to give me information and I just didn't want to hear it. So God had me step on glass, nails, and everything in the street for me to actually turn it around. And, it's just been a blessing. My neighborhood, I'm the mayor down in my neighborhood. And that's one thing I don't take lightly, because the mayors before me, I knew all of them. They was up in age. The last one, he was 91 years old. He was born and raised in Southwest Washington, D.C. And so he bestowed that mayorship upon me before he passed on. And so, I take it, with full circles. I just had a young lady call me just the other day, just asking about her. She haven't talked to her son because he in a prison in Hazleton. And I went to my contacts, and she seen me on the street yesterday, and she thanked me so much. She had a chance to talk to her son. And that's just me being human. I just don't look out for the kids. I love my senior citizens. Every chance I get, I just try to do a bus trip just to get them out the neighborhood, just to, take them to the casino, let them enjoy themselves for a day, to get away from the gunfire, the violence, all the stuff that's happening in and around that community. And so it hits me hard when I find out one of them has passed away. I got a phone where I took pictures almost 7, 8, 10 years ago, and they pop up on my timeline. And I look and I see some of my scenes where, my timeline, Halloween right around the corner, where, I just take the time out to go, maybe to one of the stores to go pick up some Halloween supplies where we can make goobers and gobbles, and it's all for senior citizens. And it's just that, God has turned my life totally around, 360 degrees. And so when, I had a chance to actually be an employee of the DC jail, which I've been in and out of my whole life, and so I know that was God work, allow me to go inside a prison, which I was once an inmate. Now I'm a DC government employee that's going in there actually teaching guys how to think. I teach a class on cognitive thinking. It's called Thinking for a Change. And so that's been one of my greatest assets that I developed over the time. And one of the things that really got me involved in my community and actually, broadening my networking abilities, when I got my personal training certification while I was still in prison, and I came home and got a job downtown at the fitness company where I was able to meet people that didn't look like me. They had extraordinary income base, and A lot of them loved my story. They couldn't believe I was ever locked up. They partners in law firms. We still friends right today, and that's been over 18 years. These friends that I've had, who's actually helped me. I do a family day event every year in Southwest, where over 1,500 people who were born and raised down there, who used to live down there, they just come back. We just have a whole weekend of fun, and I'm able to do that because of the friends that I've accumulated, the partnerships with the Southwest Bid, the DC Wharf. I mean, you name it. I have partnerships with all different types of organization, workforce development. If people look for jobs, I'm able to talk to the people that is in charge. Might have some job openings, and that's what it's all about. I can remember telling Tommy Wells, who was the actually council member years ago in Ward 6, I said, just give me the Rolodex, and I'll get it moving. And so that's what I've been accumulating, piling up a Rolodex, because that's what people need. They don't need to call a number where they're going to get an operator or a robot or somebody over in India, somebody in Colombia. They need to talk to a real live voice, because a lot of these youth, adults, they're struggling and they just want to talk to someone. And so if I'm able to sit and I can dial that number and get a live person on the phone and making sure they're going, because I'm going to follow up with them. I'm just not going to give them the number. I'm going to make sure, that the people are supposed to do what they do. And I think that's just what the teachings, what they were talking about, the angels. I believe I'm an angel. I mean, I sit back, I got to smack myself sometime, all the awards that I've gotten and how far I've come, and just believing in myself that I know I'm doing the right thing. Because that's what I tell people, doing the right thing when nobody's looking. I can remember doing a speech on love thy neighborhood, and that same Sunday morning, I got a knock on the door from my neighbor. It was 3 kids actually breaking in my car, and it was hot out there. So I went down to the car, and the young guys tried to run. I said, you don't have to run. I'm not going to do anything to you. It was one of those teachable moments because I used to break in cars. And so one of them had a birthday card that I didn't give, it wasn't nothing in it. It was just a card. They had some basketball shorts because I used to coach basketball at the rec center. And, one of them had something else. And I just said, you want that? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, so we're going to have a conversation. So I asked him their name and I told him my name. And I said, I asked them, was they thirsty? So I went up there, got them some Gatorade. I said, y'all like the movie? So I had some tickets to an AMC theater and just got to just quizzing them about why you're not playing any sports, doing something positive, and the thing about it is those kids took to me. And so when I had finished with them, they were just so enlightened. And I said, we're not breaking in cars no more, right? I said, you're going to look out for the cars around here, right? And they told me yes. And so that was one of those teachable moments. And it's always like that with me when I'm dealing with kids, because I mean, the thing is, I was mischievous, and so I can relate to them and they just need somebody to talk to, somebody that's genuine. And, and I think I was genuine at that time. And just to go to church that same Sunday and talk about love thy neighbor. And that's one of those moments where love intervened of me being hatred because somebody done broke in my car. And that's one of the things, a lot of stuff that happened to me. I get my car broken in, stuff happens, and, I might be frustrated or mad for I give myself 30 minutes. And then a smile come across my face and it say, you remember you used to break in them cars down in EPA? You remember you used to do this? This how that person felt. And so one of my biggest things is empathy. And so once I got empathy straight, life has been very simple, rewarding for me, because I would love, I would love what I want for myself for somebody else. And so I can't speak without, my family. I got sisters that love me to death. They're friends. They ain't got to talk about me no more. Nothing negative, because they used to run and tell them, your brother this, your brother that, but so much positive stuff coming in, they ain't got to tell them that. And so I know they happy for me. And so it's been a blessing. And, just like I said, I'm always open to come talk, share little tidbits of my life so it can inspire somebody else. And so like people tell me all the time, man, I want to do what you do. I want to be like you. And I tell them, just be yourself. And just like I said, just doing the right thing when nobody's looking. So I can end with that. And anybody have any questions, I'm here for you.